There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country.
And I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite, who are hurting tonight.
I can't help but wonder if the American people have given up on democracy.
I think that we've got to be honest. Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny.
It's not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris.
There's misogyny.
And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt.
This is the biggest red wave I've seen since Ronald Reagan's 49-state victory.
And they were hoping that maybe this time one of their own could be seen as worthy.
They don't want a black woman.
People who said that he was a Hitler lover weren't Democrats, they were Republicans.
A political giant once celebrated now lies in pieces. The party that once electrified a nation with hope and change is now scraping the bottom of the polls, dragging 29% national favorability, its lowest in 3 decades. Congressional approval, a historic embarrassment at just 19%. This isn't a slump. This is an implosion. The question isn't what happened, it's how did the Democrats fall so far, so fast? Buckle up. This is the story of a party that chose culture war over kitchen tables and paid the price in public trust, electoral dominance, and national relevance. It began as a revolution, loud, proud, and self-assured. After 2020, Democrats didn't just lean into progressive ideals, they swallowed them whole. DEI, ESG, gender ideology, pronouns, land acknowledgements. It all became gospel. No longer fringe talking points, they were the new core. Corporate America followed like lemmings. DEI initiatives exploded across S&P 500 firms. Mandatory bias trainings, corporate pride campaigns, and ESG mandates swept every major institution. But outside the faculty lounge and C-suite echo chambers, something else was brewing. A silent revolt. In Toledo, Ohio, a lifelong union worker looked at his paycheck, then at a company email praising two-spirit inclusivity, and muttered to a reporter, "I can't afford milk, and they're worried about made-up genders?" Inside the party, the next generation demanded a purge. Young progressives like Zoran Mamdani and David Hogg weren't asking for moderation. They wanted full-blown ideological transformation. But this ideological arms race created cracks. Working-class voters felt abandoned. Religious Democrats felt mocked. Immigrant families, once proudly liberal, were suddenly being told their values were outdated. One Latina mother in Phoenix told MSNBC, "I voted blue for 20 years, but now I feel like I'm being told I'm the enemy because I believe in traditional family." It was no longer about helping people. It was about controlling them. By early 2025, even top Democrats were whispering what they dared not say on camera. We are in the worst political position in 50 years. And the numbers confirmed it. Favorability, 29%. Congress, 19%. Think tanks dug into the collapse. The cause? A lethal cocktail. Over-reliance on woke cultural messaging, a judgmental elite tone, and catastrophic neglect of real economic issues like inflation, housing, wages, and food insecurity. An internal DNC email leaked in January 2025 spelled it out: "We are losing Latinos, Asians, and working-class whites, not because they're racist, but because we talk down to them and ignore their bills." The response? Silence. This wasn't just apathy at the ballot box. It was defection. In Georgia, young black voters shifted to the GOP. In Arizona, working-class Latinos voted Republican in record numbers. They didn't move because of hate. They moved because of hope, and the Democrats had none left to give. Enter Trump again. Only this time, he didn't just win. He obliterated the narrative. In 2025, Trump won back the White House and dragged Congress with him. But it wasn't just the MAGA base anymore. It was new blood. Texas Latinos backed him at 45%, an earth-shattering realignment. In blue-collar Pennsylvania, Trump took counties Biden won handily just 4 years earlier. How? Because the GOP didn't just campaign, they rebranded. No longer the party of tax cuts and suits, they became the movement of working people, parents, and those fed up with cultural absurdity. Their message was simple: end the woke madness. Fix the economy, take back control. It wasn't polished, it wasn't soft, but it landed like a hammer. Meanwhile, Democrats doubled down on the disaster. As Republican ads mocked trans flags in classrooms and climate justice lunch menus, Democrats responded with more symbolism, pronouns over paychecks, slogans over substance. And the voters? They left in droves. The final straw? A viral moment that hit like a punch to the gut. At a struggling grocery store town hall in Michigan, Kamala Harris was asked about soaring food prices. She laughed. "We're working on equity," she said. The video exploded. 12 million views in 24 hours. Equity doesn't buy eggs trended for a week. That was the moment voters checked out. And now, let's confront the issue of leadership, or more precisely, the glaring absence of it. In 2024, President Joe Biden, visibly aged and politically diminished, made the decision to step aside. For many, it was a long overdue move. But rather than ushering in a moment of renewed clarity or momentum, his departure only deepened the uncertainty. His chosen successor, Vice President Kamala Harris, entered the national stage with the weight of expectation, but none of the readiness. What followed wasn't a campaign in any meaningful sense. It was confusion wrapped in ambition, a national rollout that spiraled almost immediately into disarray. Major media outlets didn't mince words. They labeled the campaign chaotic, incoherent, even delusional. And those weren't partisan attacks. They were shared across the political spectrum. While the country grappled with real urgent issues, rising inflation, a fractured immigration system, and a deepening generational divide, Harris's campaign seemed to exist in another reality. These topics were largely brushed aside, treated not as challenges to address, but as distractions from her message. Unfortunately, that message never quite materialized. What the American public got instead were empty phrases masquerading as policy. We heard polished but vague affirmations, the kind that might stir applause in a speech but evaporate under scrutiny. Plans were replaced by platitudes. Concrete proposals gave way to catchy slogans. It wasn't leadership, it was performance. Even longtime Democrats grew disillusioned. A former Obama advisor speaking with brutal honesty captured what many were thinking. Biden never should have run. Harris never should have led. This wasn't a campaign. It was a funeral march. And while the Democrats fumbled the present, the media gaslit the public. CNN, MSNBC, NPR, they all carried water for the progressive elite. They downplayed the polls. They spun every GOP gain as fear-based. They treated every cultural backlash as bigotry. But America wasn't buying it anymore. Because while Anderson Cooper waxed poetic about climate reparations, millions turned to Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, and Dan Bongino. Right-wing podcasts dominated. Conservative YouTubers racked up billions of views. The media didn't just lose trust, they lost control. So what's the real takeaway? The Democratic Party didn't lose because of racism, online troll, or Facebook memes. They lost because they abandoned the very people they claimed to represent. They chose performative wokeness over meaningful economic reform. They talked about progress but delivered platitudes. While working families faced rising costs and real struggles, they were met not with solutions, but with lectures. When people cried out for help, they were told to check their privilege. This wasn't sabotage, it was political self-destruction. Now, the party stands on the edge of a cliff, and the choice is stark: recalibrate or collapse. Because unless Democrats find their backbone, rebuild trust with working-class Americans, and start speaking in terms of jobs, wages, and dignity, not hashtags and abstractions, 2025 won't be a fluke. It will be the blueprint for their permanent irrelevance.